Greetings, everyone. I'm Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast, and welcome to this week's episode of the Midweek Howl. As usual, we will be accompanied by your host, Shane Grove, and our very own resident skeptic of the crew, the theozarkhowler. So without further delay, why don't we just jump right in and get this show underway?
Okay, all right, Howler, what we started, we teased everybody a little bit last week. So let's get into the story that you wanted to share.
I don't know about wanted, but I was thinking this is one of the stories I was thinking. I was trying to figure out how come nothing I did worked out.
Okay. Including that phone call you made to me 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, I forgot about that. Anyhow, I was thinking last night about the movies, some of the movies I've been in. I know you've been in a few too, more than me. But and it dawned on me, this dawned on me a while back, but I spent all day next to. Can you name names in a podcast?
Name names.
I spent my first real, what I call big budget production. I was a background in Wilson that starred Woody Harrelson and Laura Dern, and I had the pleasure of standing next to Laura Dern multiple times during the day. And I remember, because she's somebody that I've had nothing but good thoughts about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so let down by her appearance. And it was about 6 weeks after that filming that it dawned on me they made her look like that, because then I saw her do an interview with somebody else and she looked like $1 million like she always does. And I realized
she'd gotten her shot.
She'd come out of wardrobe. She'd come out of wardrobe and walked onto the set, and I thought, my God, what a letdown.
Yeah, but when you saw her on that interview, she had just got her shot of giggle juice from the 5 teenage kids she keeps locked in her basement. Right?
I think she just got good genes. I listened to a podcast with her old man the other day, and he sounded great, didn't he? Did you listen to that one?
Oh, yeah. I listened to it. Yeah.
I mean, for a guy his age, he's got it going on. So, hey, maybe just good DNA. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some people are just luckier than others. I don't subscribe to all the conspiracy theories unless I make them up.
Unless you make them up.
Unless you make them up,
and then push them out, and then I'll.
So, did you get to interact with Laura Dern or Woody at all?
No, because not really, because the showrunner that was standing there that will walk her out. You know how this stuff works. I had been on another show with her, and she didn't care much for me because I get a persona of being a fat old redneck from the South, which was part of my character. You know what I'm saying? And she couldn't separate.
Are you typecast? Is that what
that's right. She couldn't separate, so she made sure at every turn to be between us, because I think she recognized how infectious my personality can be at times.
I was going to say, maybe she was afraid your charismatic charm was going to keep Laura Dern from maybe concentrating on the job at hand.
But it was such a long day, and you know how it is some days on the set. It's such a long day. By the end of the day, I was cranky, and I don't do well. I'm like a child. I don't do well when I'm cranky or hungry. So I was just ready to get the hell out of there. I was just, I would joke. Well, I shouldn't say that because I don't know the guy that did it, but I know who he is, but I'm not going to say his name. He had an MFA, and from I don't know, NYU or some big school, and I was joking with some other people just on the background group with me who were older. I couldn't joke with all the young people, and that they might teach you a lot of stuff, but time management is not one of them. That must not be a course when you're getting your MFA. Time management, because
Well, doesn't that go here? You can't put a time limit on artistic expression.
I don't
Right?
know,
I mean-
but I guarantee you Picasso didn't paint more than 14 or 16 hours a day. He at least went out and I don't know what they did back then, had a glass of wine or Maiden or something, but he certainly didn't do 14 or 16 hours. So I don't know.
Well, it's probably fair to say that whatever Picasso did in 14 or 16 hours today is worth a lot more than anything that you did on that set for 14 or 16.
Oh, the first movie I was ever in, anyway, they needed a 11 or 10 or 9 or 10-year-old paper boy. They needed somebody to play a cop and somebody to play a paper boy. It was what do you call that? Neo. It was old fashioned, supposed to be shot in the 30s when they were
the noir.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that stuff. So anyway, that's why I had to go around. So I volunteered, and not only when I applied for the cop role, I volunteered my at that time 10-year-old boy. So of course we got the call because they needed the 10-year-old. They had 1,000 people to play the cop, but they didn't have anybody else that had a 10-year-old to play the paper boy. So
you leverage yourself.
That's right.
I like that.
And I remember going down there to the set, and most of these people that was running the show all had MFAs. And for people that don't, some of my audience don't know what the MFAs where they buy seed and feed around here. They don't, when I say MFA on this level, I'm talking about a Master in Fine Art. And
I was wondering because you say MFA to some of our listeners might think which martial arts, wrestling combo.
See, I look at MFA as like the
Chris Hahn's like probably listening, going, man, how can I get into the MFA?
Yeah,
that sounds like something I could win.
So anyway, they were all these beautiful, educated people, and they stank. It was first thing in the morning, and the scene I had was where I had to grab this 20-some-year-old chick before she was going to take the brick off of a stack of newspapers. My kid was a paper boy on the corner. She had a domestic situation. She was going to take a red brick off a stack and throw it through a big window. Okay, and I had to grab her by the arm and keep her from doing it as the police officer. And they had me in this goofy costume that looked like you'd look like a British Bobby would be. You know what I mean? No gun, but like a almost like a black pith helmet and a nightstick. So I'm grabbing this 23, 24-year-old girl, and I just remember every time she'd turn, it would be a new introduction in bad breath. And I couldn't understand how you could have the money or credit to get into a Division I school that she had went to the University of Minnesota and not understand oral hygiene. And I remember at the end of the day of that shoot, I got in my car with my kid to drive out to the suburbs to my gigantic house on a lake, and I told my son, "You are never, ever studying film, theater, or art." Because he was like, "Daddy, that was cool," and I said, "Yeah, it might be, but
He said, you ain't doing it.
all because of her bad breath, huh?
Well, not only her, it was most of them. I don't even, I had worked, I had a whole different upbringing from them. You know what I'm saying? And first of all, they rarely interacted with me because I'm plus 40. I'm over 40, so I'm 20 some. At that time, I was at least 20, 45 probably. I don't even know how old I was, but I was so old that they didn't interact with me whatsoever in their stories. Of course, as college graduates, they were working at like the Hampton Inn or whatever as clerks or their coffee baristas until their next job worked out or whatever. So, I stopped working in a hotel when I was, last hotel I worked at, I was still in high school. So I don't even know, the struggling artist, there's a reason why they're struggling in some ways. I don't even know how I got on that story. But so what I thought I'd do is I went back. At that time I occupied a national security position for the executive branch, and I went back in two things. I converted to liberal. That's what I told these guys at the office. I converted to liberal, and I was going to infiltrate the film scene and take it over, because I said, when you have an entire industry where they can't get out of bed or bathe, they are ripe for the takeover.
There you go.
You know what I mean? They are ripe for the takeover.
It's so armed with a toothbrush and a pocket full of breath mints.
Yes, right. I told you, I used to opine this with a good friend of mine. Our desks in Cubicle City sat right next to each other, and by the tender age of 28, because I remember being there on his 28th birthday. By the time he was 28, he had graduated from Georgia Tech, went to law school, Alabama, went to rotor flight training for the Army, and was a qualified Black Hawk pilot, and flew 168 combat missions in Iraq by the time he was 28. So you can't tell him. I used to tell him, there's no reason why you can't do a movie. There's no reason why you can't. And you know what he'd tell me? It just doesn't sound like any fun to me.
Well, hey, listen, be honest. It doesn't. It's not a lot of fun in the moment. It's not. The most fun is when you get out of it and you're like, look back and think, okay, that really turned out cool. But in the moment, it's not very much fun taking a shot of bad breath from some girl type kid.
Yeah, and they kept redoing the shot, because it quote wasn't good enough. And I was just like, dude, how many times are you going to redo this shot?
The funny thing is when you said you converted to liberal. Yeah. Our good friend Tim Lovelace, I know he's a dedicated listener to the Howler. His head probably exploded up there in Michigan somewhere.
Why, he didn't like liberals?
Oh, no, he doesn't like liberals. Even though deep down inside I know he is one.
Well, my buddy said, you can't. I said, well, I knew all kinds of guys when they married Catholic girls, they had to convert, right? Yeah. I said, so you can convert to Catholic, but you can't convert to liberal? I mean, what do you mean I can't?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, of course, this was pre the current administration. I mean, it wasn't even the current administration wasn't even in the thought. You know what I mean of how it is now. So I think that I don't even know. Does the definition of liberal mean anything anymore? Just like conservative, I don't think it means anything anymore. No, just like hell, sometimes being Catholic don't mean anything anymore. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, compared to our ancestors. I mean, think about my entire school life, from the time I was in kindergarten to the time I was out of high school. Okay. So for 12 years of public school, we never had meat on Fridays at my school. Okay. Now that was dedication back then. That was dedication for the whole district. Okay. Because
and you didn't go. Did you go to?
No, I went to a public school. I went to a public school, but out of all the kids, there was about 12 of us that weren't Catholic. We were like a state-supported Catholic school. It's hard to grasp that nowadays with the complainers and Twitter, and I mean, I'm sure it's not the way it is. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that was dedication. I mean, they tailored their menu around what they believed in, and now, I mean, you can't even. I mean, could they even let people believe anything anymore?
I don't know, but I remember when I went to school, I really believed in pizza, and we only ever had that once every 2 weeks. So
why is that?
I don't know. That's when the cardboard that it got served on.
I remember that. Remember, it was like a square, like a rectangle.
Yeah,
it was like a rectangle.
So it fit in the tray.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
You'd walk in there and, God, they'd start cooking that pizza. I mean, think about that. They'd start cooking that pizza the minute you walked into the school at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So how bad was that pizza They had to cook for 3 hours before you got a chance.
Maybe it was just like leftover pizza. That's why it was so good.
Oh God. Oh God. Well, on that note, we'll end this episode with everybody thinking about their favorite school lunch from back
high school pizza.
High school pizza and peanut butter bars. Didn't get any better than that when I was in school. How sad is that?
Ladies and gentlemen, a final word. Please visit us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/From the Shadows Podcast, and on our Instagram page at instagram.com/From the Shadows Podcast. You can visit our webpage at FromTheShadowsPodcast.GoDaddySites.com, or contribute to our Facebook discussion page called After the Shadows, and tweet us on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/podcast_from. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.